All right, so get this. We're diving into this thing called Utopia today. And wow, it sounds wild.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more interesting systems out there.
This article you guys sent over about it, it's like reading a blueprint for a digital spy hideout.
It's pretty out there.
They're claiming total online anonymity, like nobody can track you, and they're completely censorship-proof.
Yeah, that's a tall order for sure.
It's like they're trying to build a fortress in the digital world.
What's fascinating to me is how they're approaching it. Not just strong encryption, but the whole network design is built around these ideas.
Okay, so less about being invisible, more about being like a ghost in the machine.
Kind of. It's more about making it so difficult to track and censor that it's practically impossible.
So first things first, the article mentions Utopia is a peer-to-peer network, but I think some of our listeners might need a little refresher on what that even means.
Sure. So think of it this way. Like, instead of having one central server where everyone connects to, like, imagine everyone's connected directly to each other.
So like instead of a spider web, it's more like a net.
Exactly. It's decentralized, so there's no single point of failure.
Okay. I'm with you so far, but how do you even find anyone to connect with in this kind of network? It's not like there's a phone book for the dark web, right?
That's the million-dollar question with decentralized networks, right? Utopia gets really creative with something they call multi-layered peer discovery.
Multi-layered. Sounds complicated. Lay it on me.
So one layer uses predefined IP addresses, kind of like having a set meeting spot. But if those get blocked, Utopia has a backup plan.
Let me guess there's more than one backup plan.
Of course. They can use something called UDP to discover other users on a local network. Think of it like sending out a little bat signal, but for fellow Utopia users.
Okay, that's pretty slick. But what if even that doesn't work?
Then things get seriously sneaky. Utopia can actually scan the internet for hidden messages, concealing IP addresses within something as ordinary as an image file.
Hold on, they're hiding secret messages in plain sight.
Exactly. It's like digital steganography, hiding information within other information.
That's some next level spy stuff right there. But why go through all this trouble? Couldn't they just make it easier to connect?
They could, but remember security through obscurity, right? Utopia's system is designed to be resilient and unpredictable. The harder it is to find, the harder it is to shut down.
So it's like a constantly moving target, making it that much harder for anyone to track or block. Clever. But let's say you've navigated this digital maze, you've connected to the Utopia network. How does it keep your information private once you're in? The article mentions something about layers of encryption.
You're right, encryption is at the heart of Utopia's security. It's like putting your message in a box, then that box inside another box, and then another, each layer adding an extra level of protection.
So like those Russian nesting dolls, but for secret messages.
Exactly. Each layer uses a different encryption key, so even if someone manages to break through one layer, they still have to get through all the others.
Okay, so we're talking Fort Knox level security here. What kind of encryption are we talking about here? Is this some homebrew code or something more established?
Utopia uses some seriously robust stuff. They utilize the libsodium library and something called curve2551sun. These are well-respected and constantly vetted by cryptography experts, not just some fly-by-night code.
Okay, so we're not talking about a simple Caesar cipher here. This is the real deal.
Exactly. We're talking military-grade encryption, making it practically impossible to crack.
Encryption is just the tip of the iceberg though, right? The article also mentioned camouflaged communication. What in the world is that?
All right, so imagine this. You want to send a secret message, but everyone's watching, so you disguise it as something completely ordinary.
Like writing a grocery list, but it's actually a coded message.
You got it. Utopia does something similar with its internet traffic. It's designed to blend in with everyday internet noise, making it almost impossible to detect. They even send out decoy packets, fake signals to further confuse anyone snooping around.
So even if someone is watching your internet activity, it just looks like you're browsing cat videos.
Exactly. Utopia is all about making its traffic indistinguishable from the rest of the internet. It's like trying to find a specific drop of water in the ocean.
They've certainly thought of everything to stay under the radar. To really understand how effective this is, maybe we should compare Utopia to other anonymity networks out there. The article mentioned Tor, that's kind of the gold standard, right?
Tor is definitely the most well-known. It's a good system, but it has its weaknesses. Imagine, if you will, a series of tunnels.
Oh, this is going to be good. I can already tell.
So with Tor, you enter the tunnel at one point and you exit at another. Someone might see you go in or see you come out, even if they can't track you while you're inside.
Okay, so it's like wearing a disguise.
Right.
You're anonymous inside the party, but someone might recognize you coming or going.
Exactly. Now, Utopia tries to address this weakness with its routing algorithm and something called address narrowing.
Address narrowing. Huh. Sounds like something out of a spy movie. Break it down for me.
So instead of a direct path, your data takes a winding journey through the Utopia network, like leaving a trail of false clues.
So it's not just about hiding the message itself, it's about making the path itself a mystery.
Precisely. And with each hop, the address space narrows, making it even harder to trace the message back to its origin.
Okay, so it's like trying to track a drop of water in a hurricane. It's just impossible.
That's a great analogy. And remember those decoy packets we talked about earlier? They come into play here too, creating even more noise and confusion for anyone trying to follow your trail.
This is next level stuff. What's the benefit of all this complexity compared to something like Tor?
Remember how we talked about Utopia being decentralized? That's key. Tor relies on a directory to know which relays to use, but if that directory is compromised, the whole system is vulnerable.
So it's a single point of failure.
Exactly. Utopia doesn't have that same vulnerability. Even if some nodes are compromised, the network as a whole stays secure.
That's a relief. But hold on, we haven't even touched on the elephant in the room, Crypton. Wait, is this some kind of futuristic energy drink?
It does sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But Crypton is actually Utopia's built-in cryptocurrency.
Whoa, hold up, a cryptocurrency. We're going full cyberpunk now. Seriously though, why does Utopia need its own currency?
It's more than just a gimmick. Crypton's designed to be completely untraceable and independent, adding another layer of privacy to the Utopia ecosystem.
Okay, so we're talking about a whole other level of anonymity here. But what are the practical implications of that?
Think about it. You can make anonymous payments, store files securely, even create hidden websites that are only accessible within the Utopia network, all without leaving a trace.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
It's like building a whole new internet where traditional rules don't apply. But doesn't that sound a little bit like a recipe for illegal activity?
It's a valid concern. Any technology can be misused, right? But people who are already engaging in illegal activities are already using sophisticated methods to cover their tracks.
So you're saying Utopia isn't creating a new problem, it's just offering a different solution to an existing one.
Exactly. Utopia's creators argue that everyone has a right to privacy and security online, and that empowering users with these tools makes the internet a freer and more open space.
It's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
But it definitely raises a lot of ethical questions.
It does, and it's important to have these discussions as technology advances.
Agreed. Before we get too deep into the ethics, though, let's bring it back to Crypton. How is it actually used within the Utopia ecosystem?
Glad you asked, because Crypton is more than just an idea. It's an integral part of how Utopia works. For example, remember our conversation about censorship resistance?
Yeah, they're pretty serious about that.
Exactly, and Crypton is a big part of that. Because it's decentralized, no government or corporation can control it or shut it down.
So even if they tried to block Utopia, they couldn't touch the currency that fuels it.
You got it. That makes it really appealing for people worried about censorship, especially in parts of the world with oppressive regimes.
That makes sense. But how does someone actually use Crypton? Is it like Bitcoin?
It's similar. You can buy it on certain exchanges, store it in a digital wallet, and use it to send and receive payments within the Utopia network.
And because it's all built on Utopia's anonymous network, those transactions are completely private.
You got it. Completely untraceable. Like having a secret stash of cash only you and the person you're trading with know about.
Sounds pretty revolutionary. But with great power comes great responsibility, right? What's to stop someone from using it for illegal purposes if it's untraceable?
It's the double-edged sword of any privacy-focused tech. There's always a risk. But Utopia's creators believe most users are just looking to protect their privacy and exercise their freedom online.
It's the classic debate about security versus freedom. Can't have one without sacrificing a bit of the other.
Exactly. It boils down to individual values and how much risk someone is willing to accept for more privacy and control over their online activity.
That's a hefty topic. We've covered Utopia's security features and dove into Crypton. What other surprises does this digital rabbit hole have in store for us?
Well, we've only scratched the surface. Utopia is more than just a network. It's like a digital Swiss Army knife for anyone who really values their privacy. They have this built-in messaging system that makes other messaging apps look like sending smoke signals.
Okay, now that's a claim I gotta hear more about. How secure can a messaging app really be these days?
Let's just say your friend who's worried about those questionable texts they sent would be impressed.
Oh, we've all been there.
This is next level stuff. We're talking end-to-end encrypted messages, voice and video calls, file sharing, all happening within Utopia's secure bubble.
So it's like having your own private communication network. No need for carrier pigeons.
Exactly. And because it's all peer-to-peer, there's no central server where your data is just sitting there ripe for the taking.
That's pretty impressive. But what about sharing larger files? Does Utopia have a solution for that too?
They've got you covered there, too. Utopia offers decentralized file storage.
Decentralized. You have to break that one down for me.
Basically, your files are spread out across the network instead of being stored in one central location.
Ah, so it's like having a secret vault with pieces of the key hidden in different locations.
Exactly. It makes it really tough for someone to block access or track those files back to you.
Smart. Okay, so we've talked about the tech, but I have to ask about the elephant in the room. With all this talk about privacy and anonymity, aren't there concerns about potential misuse?
It's a valid point for sure. Like any tool, Utopia can be used for good or bad.
It's the classic dilemma with any technology that offers greater anonymity.
Exactly. It's a question we have to grapple with.
How do we strike that balance between protecting individual privacy and preventing harm?
That's the million-dollar question. There are no easy answers, unfortunately, but one thing's for certain, this technology is here to stay, and we need to be having these conversations.
We can't just bury our heads in the sand.
Exactly. We have to understand the technology itself and have open and honest discussions about the values we want to uphold online.
Well said. This deep dive has been eye-opening, to say the least. Utopia is really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible with online privacy.
It really is groundbreaking stuff.
Yeah,
But as with anything powerful, we need to be aware of both the benefits and the risks.
couldn't agree more. The decision to use a system like Utopia is a personal one. It all comes down to individual values and risk tolerance.
Absolutely. Everyone has to make that decision for themselves.
For our listeners who are now just as fascinated by Utopia as we are, where can they go to learn more and maybe even see it in action?
That article you sent over is a great starting point. It's got a really thorough overview of Utopia and how it all works. And for those who are feeling adventurous,
Always down for an adventure.
you can actually download the software and try Utopia out for yourselves.
Just remember, once you go down the rabbit hole, there's no telling what you might find. But on that note, it's time for us to resurface from this deep dive into Utopia. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical intricacies to the ethical dilemmas.
It's been quite the journey.
If you're listening and have thoughts on Utopia, we want to hear from you. Is it a step towards a more free and private internet, or a potential breeding ground for illegal activity?
Let us know what you think.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always, keep diving deep.